In the weeks leading up to December 1941, the United States military intercepted clear Japanese communications pointing toward an impending attack in the Pacific. Those warnings were dismissed by command, leaving the fleet at Pearl Harbor completely exposed to the devastating strike that followed. These officers were trapped in a room of absolute consensus. They shared a collective illusion of naval invulnerability, a belief so synchronized that it blinded them to the specific evidence of the coming assault. What that room desperately needed was a devil's advocate, someone explicitly tasked with doubting the majority and aggressively questioning the assumption that an attack was impossible. We are biologically wired to avoid that kind of friction. Through cognitive biases like social proof and a deep-seated fear of exclusion, our brains instinctively push us to herd together. Agreeing with the flock feels safe. You can see this dynamic perfectly illustrated in physics through what's called a ferromagnetic state. Watch how this grid of vibrating atoms suddenly snaps into perfect alignment, locking their spins to point uniformly in a single direction. A highly unified human group operates the exact same way. It feels incredibly stable and comforting from the inside, but a system entirely devoid of friction is completely blind to its own fatal errors. True contrarians possess a rare combination of high risk tolerance and intellectual humility. They follow data wherever it leads, regardless of the potential for social backlash. A productive contrarian argues solely for accuracy. This distinguishes them from the oppositional troll, who seeks to win arguments through reflexive, destructive disagreement. To see what happens when a society is forced to confront one of these challengers, we have to look at ancient Athens. The early Greeks operated almost entirely on instinct, prioritizing a comfortable, beautiful, and deeply entrenched aesthetic consensus. Then came Socrates. Using his famously unrefined, abrasive physical appearance and his relentless method of questioning, he shattered that social harmony. He forced his fellow citizens to actually justify their deeply held beliefs with hard logic. The Athenians executed him for it. Time and again, societies actively punish the exact individuals pushing them out of their comfortable ignorance, simply because seeking the truth shattered social cohesion. Researchers in sociophysics translate these social dynamics into hard data, using the Schneid model to map how opinions spread through a population. Watch this model. In a baseline conformist society, a single opinion rapidly overtakes the board in a uniform wave of groupthink. But introducing contrarian blockers and randomly flipping independent agents fractures the monolithic blocks. The system shatters into a vibrating mosaic of stabilized, perpetual debate. Operating this way in everyday life comes with a heavy social tax. People who naturally challenge consensus are frequently written off by their peers as obstinate, difficult, or just plain annoying. But if you look at the financial markets, you find an environment where resisting that exact same social pressure is tangibly and mathematically rewarded. Consider the strategy of contrarian investors like Anthony Bolton. They succeed by deliberately decoupling their desire for social comfort from their pursuit of factual accuracy. This allows them to buy highly undervalued assets when everyone else is eagerly selling. While the majority of the market gets swept up in the emotional panic of short-term volatility, the true contrarian relies on long-term, evidence-based discipline to hold a minority position, waiting for the math to prove them right. We can apply this exact discipline to our own lives. When facing pushback in a meeting or a personal relationship, the goal is to separate the abrasive friction of the messenger from the objective data within their argument. Cultivating a contrarian mindset and protecting the people around us who naturally possess one takes deliberate effort. It requires us to tolerate social discomfort, but it remains our absolute best safeguard against the seductive, disastrous comfort of the crowd.